What are seller credits? When you go to list your property, let's assume you owe about 50% of the home's value back to the bank. You still have a loan on it. When you go to sell that property, you'll pay off the mortgage first. Then you'll pay some closing costs and maybe a little bit of taxes, maybe some agent fees. And then you're left with the profit from selling your house. Seller credits would be if they're left with that chunk of money, they take a small portion of it and pass that back to the buyers of the property, allowing the buyers to take advantage of these dollars, these concessions or credits. But essentially, the seller gets to decide how much they'll be willing to pass on to the buyer. Passing it on takes many shapes and forms, such as lowering their closing costs, covering a portion of their closing costs, potentially buying down the buyer's interest rate, or funding a temporary interest rate buy down. But it's a way that the seller, it's their money that they would then get to negotiate and make a deal with the buyer about on how much credits or dollars they're going to give back to the buyer to purchase their home. There's a wide range. I've seen seller credits as low as $1,000. I've seen seller credits as high as 6% of the purchase price. There's a very wide range, and not to put a number to it, it's nice to know that what you have available can move the needle and entice more buyers to come purchase your property. So oftentimes having a lower purchase price or netting less on the sale, but getting your property sold quicker, has a lot of downstream effects for you, the seller, positive effects, such as getting that property off your hands quicker, getting the liability off your hands quicker. A quicker close means less interest carry and less payments made as your home sits on the market. The mortgage company doesn't care if your property's listed July 1st. If it's not sold by August 1st, you have another monthly payment due. And so all this to say, these are leverageable tools, obtainable tools that we have in our quiver to, one, get your property sold quicker, but two, entice buyers into the market to get your property sold quicker as well. So it cuts both ways, and I would say it mutually benefits both parties when done and structured correctly. Last month, I had an agent call me. She had a listing on the market in Clackamas County, and the property was not moving as quickly as the sellers wanted, nor she did. Low traction, not a lot of showings, but a beautiful, meticulously kept property. And so she called me, how can we maybe dangle a carrot or create some incentives to entice buyers to come purchase this home? And we deduced into a plan that we could allocate $7,500 of seller credits towards enticing a buyer to let them use that towards their closing costs or buying down their interest rate. Once we did the math, figured out that they would net a little bit less, right? They'd have to pay a little bit to get this home sold. The sellers were on board. They had life plans on moving to Montana, and the next project or the next phase of their life had already started. And so selling this home quickly was more important than squeezing every last dollar out of the home. I thought that was an astute and wise decision on the seller's behalf to understand I have time and I have money, and sometimes they work inversely of each other when trying to pull off these moves and contingent moves. Sure enough, within a week of changing the description and advertising that there are seller credits available, we had the property under contract with a cash buyer, no mortgage for us, but we had a successful story and a successful exit of a listing agent and a seller working together to conduct a plan to advertise seller credits and get that property moved way quicker than it would have without seller credits.